November 25th, 2019. We do have a quorum as all three commissioners are here. Eric Martin, would you lead us in our flag salute, please? Public comment, Mr. Bob Gunther.
Well, good morning and thank you. I'm Bob Gunther. I live at 376 State Route 508 in Chehalis. I mentioned last week in the meeting about the delisting of the biosolids from Kalama Chemical and Fire Mountain Farms. There is a comment period that ends on the 12th of December to petition the EPA with comments to, I assume, develop legal standings. This is in regards for the delisting of benzenine U019 and toluene U222, number EPA R10 RC RA 2019-0662. I've submitted a letter to the EPA on this. And I just want you to know that, as I understand it from the Department of Ecology, there has been no testing done on that ground since the Department of Ecology called a halt to the application of the Kalama Chemical illegal biosolids that was being dumped for the last 19 years on the property of Burnt Ridge, Hannaford, as well as the New Wacom Prairie. So I have submitted a letter to the department, EPA, and I would hope that the county continues to monitor the process. One of the things that I'm worried about is that the 20,000 cubic yards of material that's being asked to be delisted for one time. I'm very, very opposed to that 20,000 cubic yards being land applied in Lewis County. We land applied for 19 years, the same material as I understand it. So, but I think what could happen is if the delisting takes place, I think that if you look at the cost of putting 40,000 barrels of material in a landfill at $1,500 a barrel, do the math. So I think they're going to want to do it in Lewis County and not move it to a certified landfill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions I might be able to add? No?
We just want to say thank you for all your hard work on this. After looking to see what those chemicals actually are, which they're petroleum-based chemicals, you know, to delist them down from hazardous materials to solid waste makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. So thank you for all your hard work.
One-time delisting application to the department, you know, to the EPA. So there you go.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
That's all we have for public comment.
All right. I'd like to move the following notice items, Resolution 19-340 and 341.
Second.
Good morning, Jack.
Morning, Commissioners. Jack Nehauser with Public Works. I'm going to speak to resolution items 19-340 and 19-341. The first of which, 19-340, is a request for proposal for floodwood, for packwood floodwood mapping or floodplain mapping. Essentially, we're soliciting proposals for engineering consulting firm with expertise in hydraulic services for that effort. And that will be received no later than 3 p.m. local time, December 13th, at the Public Works office on 2025 Northeast Kresge Ave. We've posted that on the Chronicle on the 26th and December 3rd, and Seattle DJC November 26th. Any questions?
Thank you. I know you guys have been working overtime on this.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Resolution item 19-341, we are calling for bids for the 2020 Graff Road Culvert Replacement Project, CMP 1531. That's at mile posting 101. And essentially that will be opened at 11 a.m. on December 17th. We posted on the Chronicle on November 26th and December 3rd, and the Seattle DJC on 11/26. Any questions on that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. It's been moved and seconded to approve two notice items, beginning with Resolution 19-340 and 19-341. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Passed.
I make a motion to approve two consent items. The first one is Resolution 19-342. That's the approval of warrants, and the second is the approval of minutes for November 18th, 2019 business meeting.
Second.
Good morning, Commissioners. Suzette Smith, Chief Accountant to Auditor's Office, here to present to you Resolution Number 19-342. This is the weekly approval of claims against the various county departments, and this week it is much shorter than last week. So we issued the following warrants on behalf of the special purpose districts. Their commissions approved those warrants, and they are simply noted as a skip in sequence for Lewis County. Those warrants were numbered 821-506 through 821-582. On behalf of Lewis County, we issued 312 regular warrants. They were numbered 821-583 through 821-894 for a total of $1,584,198.04. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Suzette. It's been moved and seconded to approve two consent items, Resolution 19-342, and also the approval of minutes from the November 18th, 2019 business meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passed.
I move that we approve deliberation items starting with Resolution 19-343 to 346.
Second.
Jack Hauser with Public Works again, and I am speaking to Resolution 19344, and this is to execute a contract with the Washington State Department of Commerce to fund the Packwood FEMA floodplain study, and we received $624,260 through their local and community projects program to Lewis County Public Works for development of the new FEMA flood insurance rate maps for the Cowlitz River through the community of Packwood. And this resolution is to execute that.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Jack.
Thank you. And our legislators helped us out with this after a lot of talking with them about the need for this. And so we appreciate that legislative action that led to this. Thank you.
Ms. Napier.
Good morning, Lee Napier, Director of Community Development, speaking on the next agenda item, which is Resolution 19-344. So this particular resolution is to approve an addendum to the Nisqually Watershed Management Plan. The original Watershed Management Plan was reviewed and approved in 2004, I believe. This addendum relates to the legislation related to Stream Flow Restoration Acts, which asks each watershed planning unit and/or certain watersheds to update their watershed plan. So the first one in the state, according to the legislation to update, was Nisqually. And that was, the deadline for that was February of last year. So I was the representative on the planning unit. I was the alternate to Commissioner Stamper. And so I participated in that process. And it was reviewed and approved and accepted by Ecology. And so now this is the formality of each county going through and acknowledging the watershed plan update. Any questions?
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Lee.
Good morning, Commissioners. JP Anderson, Director of Public Health and Social Services here in Lewis County. I'm here to talk on two resolutions, 19-345 and 19-346. The first one, 19-345, is approval of the 5-year Housing and Homeless Strategic Plan as required by the Department of Commerce to identify homeless housing needs and develop goals and objectives to address those needs. We have quite a few people in attendance today who are instrumental in us getting this plan developed, understanding our needs in the community, and who are also going to be staying connected with us as we work to implement this goal, implement this plan. So we have representatives here from Human Response Network, the Salvation Army, Rise Lewis County, Centralia School District, Centralia College, as well as the Public Health and Social Services Advisory Board, our local veterans program, and representatives from our therapeutic court, our mental health therapeutic court, which often does kind of have clients who are also needing housing services, as you've heard, and also Community Integrated Health Services, which provides the True Blood program, which also looks to address and connect people with housing services and works closely with a similar population in our community. This plan, as described earlier, is required by the Department of Commerce. There's quite a bit of work that's gone into it, and as we work to implement it, there's still a lot of decisions to be made. And so hoping people stay engaged on this process. It's obviously transcends just social services and public health. It goes into community development, how we know that we understand and support people that are looking to move out of addiction, move out of behavioral health needs that have not been met yet, and get the services they need. So it really meets at the confluence of a lot of different goals and objectives we have and we talk about regularly. It's a 21-page document. There's a link to it on our website. We've had an open comment period, a lot of conversations with a lot of people about it, including the Department of Commerce. They were quite engaged as we developed this, and there was a lot of back and forth to make sure it was going to meet the next hurdle, which is approval by the state of Washington. This is in order for us to continue to receive those housing and homeless funds. That's why it was adopted. That's why it was developed and hopefully adopted today. Are there any
JP?
questions?
Could we have the folks stand up who've
Yeah,
come here
just-
for this?
Just stand up.
Please.
Everyone's involved with this.
Please. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you
your
so
work.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I'll move on to the next resolution. 19-346. This is to appoint Rachel Wood, MD, MPH, as Lewis County Mental Health Officer and approve an agreement employing her as our health officer in such capacity. She's been our health officer for a decade, is no longer going to be the health officer for Thurston County, so she will only be our health officer starting next month. And that's what this resolution's for. Any questions on that one? Thank
She
you.
served us well.
She has.
Thank you, JP.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded to approve 4 deliberation items, beginning with Resolution 19-343 through 19-346. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Passed. We will now move into a public hearing. We have a couple of ordinances to look at this morning. We'll start out with calling the hearing to order for ordinance number 1307, which amends the Lewis County Comprehensive Plan. First, we will have a staff report followed by a question and answer period. We will then close the question and answer period and open the hearing for formal testimony. Anyone wishing to testify, please sign the sign-in sheet at our lectern. You will have 3 minutes. And at this time, we'll now move on for the staff report.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is John Kleem. I'm a planning consultant to Lewis County. A quick update on the facts of Ordinance 1307. This is to amend Land Use Map 1 in the land use element of the Lewis County Comprehensive Plan. This amendment, requested by the cities of Chehalis and Centralia, will remove 809 acres from the Centralia UGA. It's going to transfer 677 of those to the Chehalis UGA. And the remaining 132 acres that were in the original Centralia 809 will go back to the county and be zoned as Rural Development 20. Just this summer, the Planned Growth Committee had discussed this at length, and in June of 2019, the Planned Growth Committee recommended forwarding it to the Lewis County Planning Commission. The Lewis County Planning Commission held a workshop on it in July 2019 to discuss the options, and a public hearing followed in September. The Planning Commission recommended approval to the Board of County Commissioners to amend Land Use Map 1 in the comprehensive plan as indicated in the letter of transmittal from the Planning Commission Chair. The county Department of Community Development issued a DNS through the State Environmental Policy Act on the proposal and distributed the amendment to the Department of Community Development for their mandatory 60-day review. And I believe the county only received one comment from the Department of Washington, the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, saying they essentially had no concerns and would look forward to working with the county through the subdivision process. As this part of the public hearing process, the county went through and distributed all information about the proposal per chapter 1712 of the Lewis County Code.
Lee Napier, Director of Community Development, just want to make one clarification. John indicated that the 60-day letter went to Community Development, and that was Department of Commerce.
I've been around too long,
Yes.
sorry. They've changed their names too many times. And we did not receive any comments from the Department of Commerce.
We know.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Okay, we will now open the question and answer period during which the public can ask questions. This is different from public testimony, which comes later. Now is the time to ask staff any questions you might have. Do we have anyone that wishes to ask a question? Okay, we will now close the question and answer period. John, Lee, would you like your opening statements incorporated into the hearing?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We'll now open the hearing for public testimony. And we have no one signed in for public testimony. So now we'll close the hearing for public testimony.
Okay, I make a motion to approve ordinance 1307, that is, which amends the Lewis County Comprehensive Plan.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 1307, amending the Lewis County Comprehensive Plan. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It is passed. And now we'll call to order the hearing for ordinance number 1309, which adopts a system of special assessment applicable to parcels within Lewis County Flood Control District 1 located in southern Chehalis and surrounding areas. First, we will have a staff report, followed by a question and answer period. We will then close the question and answer period and open the hearing for formal testimony. Anyone wishing to testify, please sign the sign-in sheet at our lectern. You'll have 3 minutes, and we will now move on to the staff report. Mr. Eisenberg.
Good morning, Commissioners. Eric Eisenberg from the Lewis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office on behalf of the county this morning. Ordinance 1309 is part of a state law requirement that we, the county, in which a certain type of special district sits, in this case, Flood Control District 1, form a system of special assessment, which is basically like a rule book about how that district, Flood Control 1, will raise its budget each year. Basically, we have this hearing in which we set forth a specific rule book for how they raise their budget. And then each year, Flood Control District 1 will pass its budget through its normal budget process. They'll send that to the county, and then we, the Treasurer's Office, using the system that you've passed today, if you pass it today, will then fill that budget in accordance with the law. This is something that was set up by the legislature specifically for this type of special purpose district, and it's required for us to do this. And so we have endeavored to do it. The basic proposal is, as proposed by the county engineer, is that Flood Control District 1 really does 3 basic things. It provides district-wide flood reduction services by helping to clear out ditches that are private ditches and government ditches that do drainage throughout that entire area. The area is basically a basin, and it's largely flat. In fact, Ms. Hallam, would you be willing to call up the map that's associated with this? So Flood Control District 1 is the blue shaded area, which is in the southern area just outside of Chehalis, and also a small part of the incorporated city. That whole area is largely flat, and it is really what you would consider the industrial area of the Port of Chehalis. Flood Control District 1 was formed and provides those ditch services to help make the roads not flood and to improve both the value and access to those properties. Most of the properties are commercial businesses, and some of them are very successful businesses with a high assessed value. They have lots of goods and services going in and out of there. They have workers that they need to get in. And so helping maintain that access provides a real benefit to them in terms of dollars and cents. And it also increases the value of that property as being good commercial land. So Flood Control 1, in addition to clearing those ditches, they provide what I called on-call services. That, in other words, they They think of themselves as being a resource for people who have flood-related issues in the district. So if a property owner has a problem, they can call the flood control zone district, and the flood control districts, will go out and look, and sometimes they can help clear a ditch or a blockage that has caused a flooding problem. And the final thing they do is they do studies. They've done at least one major district-wide study about how to reduce flooding in the long term in the district, and it also proposed recommended improvements that could be done. They use that study to then take it to apply for grants and other things to get funding to do those projects. And we do have a couple of the staff members of the flood control district here. The district contracts with the Port of Chehalis to help provide some staffing services on a full-time, well, on a part-time basis, but they're there as a full-time presence because of the port, and so they're here today. Anyway, so the county engineer saw those services, saw that those services provided a benefit to the whole district, basically, and he saw that businesses really got maybe a greater benefit than unimproved land, because if you have a valuable business and your workers can come in and out and your goods can come in and out, then you get a huge benefit. If you have unimproved land, you still get a benefit because your land is worth more, because someone could build a business on it and have that benefit of having the access clear. But he thought that the businesses got a greater benefit. And so he proposed that the system of assessment should include all of the value of improvements on land. So if you remember, when you get your tax bill twice a year, you have improvements on your land and you have your land, and you get a number of the tax on each separately. So we thought, the entire improvement value is really relevant to the benefit they get, because if you have a very, very valuable business improvement, you get a big benefit. But because land gets slightly less benefit if it doesn't have improvements on it, he proposed that only half of the land benefit be part of the equation. So on the whole, his proposal is every parcel in Flood District 1, there in blue on the map, should pay its portion of the budget for the special district, and its portion is its full improvement value assessed plus half of its land assessed value. And if you take that equation as the top of a fraction, and underneath on the bottom of a fraction, you put the sum of that same equation for the whole parcel, or excuse me, the whole district.
Whole district.
That is the fraction you would pay. So basically it's like, how do I compare to all of the people in the district in terms of the value of my improvements and the value of my land, but half the value of my land? And that's my portion of what the budget will be. Now, to make this more concrete, because that's complicated, the law requires, and we have done, that your system of assessment actually figure out what each parcel has to pay if the budget of the flood control district were $1,000. And that is also available for public view. It was part of the materials.
That's the
offered today.
total budget. Yeah. Right.
Yes, and I'll explain a little bit more, but I was hoping that Ms. Hallam, could you bring up Exhibit 1, please? It'll be a little hard to see, but people, of course, can always go on the internet and look at it. So can you zoom in by any chance on that right-hand column? To make it so people can read the numbers in the right-hand column there? Okay. So our job is come up with a rule book for how to do this assessment so that if the entire district, if every parcel in the district had to pay a total of $1,000 with all of them summed up together, how much would each person pay? And that is what that right-handmost column shows you. It shows you, for example, the very top one, that if the entire district had to raise $1,000, then the top person would pay 50 cents. And the second to the top person would pay 79 cents, and the next person down would pay $1.30, and et cetera. So that's what we've been asked to do. We've been asked to come up with a system that says, if the budget is $1,000, what does every person have to pay? And it's worth pointing that out because there was some press coverage that suggested that we were going to impose a $1,000 assessment on every single parcel in that district, and that's not true. As you can see, it's if the entire was $1,000 for everyone in total, parcel 1 would pay 50 cents, parcel 2 would pay 79 cents, parcel 3 would pay $1.30, et cetera, down the list. So the actual assessment we're talking about is not $1,000 per parcel. It is a much smaller one according to our system. So basically, if you adopt this system and each year the flood control district adopts its budget, they will take this system, this method of figuring out who pays what portion of the budget, and the treasurer will each year raise that budget in the manner that you set forth here. So some housekeeping stuff, just to make sure you know. In order to do this, we were required to publish in the newspaper, like many ordinances, but we also were required to send notice to each and every person who owns those parcels. So we've done that. Only one of those letters came back for a particular business, and actually Rick Rouse from the Port of Chehalis volunteered to hand deliver that one to the business for us so we can make sure they got it. So this way we can be assured everybody got notice, and of course they knew to come today because that's precisely what the notice was. There's a sample letter that's on the internet that I don't think it's worth calling up now, but it said in big letters, please come to this hearing if you want to comment. So after the hearing today, if you decide to pass this ordinance, you will have adopted a system that will allow us to have a rule book for how their budget is raised. And then each year they'll send us their budget and we'll raise it. We'll then have to revisit this system every 4 years. That's our legal obligation. Do you have any questions?
Commissioners?
So when was this Flood Control District 1 formed? It's been a while. It's been around a while.
That's correct. It was formed in 1991. It was formed under a particular statute, which is a very old statute. The statute itself, I think, is from the 1919 or something like that. It's old. It's relatively unusual for a flood control district to be formed in 1991 under that old statute. And that's why we're doing this. This is a special procedure that's required only for these unusual districts that are new under an old statute. But when I say new, I mean from 1991.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been in place, but we're having to do a different process than was done back then.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is not the case. Flood Control District 1 has done assessments before. And in fact, I think it's done them relatively regularly. They did not do one last year, but they have done them before. So the idea that we would be raising the funds in this fashion, or rather that they would, is not new.
So I guess that's my question. There has been monies collected, correct, in the past, but not last year.
That's right. Many
Okay.
years they have collected assessments. They
Okay.
did not do so last year.
Okay, so I guess I'm looking at it and I see we obviously have a very vital interest in the industrial park over there. But what is and you identified some particular advantages for the private landowner, the smaller person there. So what would be, again, would that be like including, obviously you're going to do some work in, cleaning out ditches, as far as levees, those types of things? Is that what this is particularly for, to protect not only the port and the industrial area, but also the private landowners too?
Right. So every person who lives in that district or has a business in that district, every landowner in that district, they need some means of getting to their land. And
Correct.
the ditches that we're talking about are mostly designed to try to prevent flooding from going over the roads. There are really only, there aren't that many roads that go in there. And if one of them floods, then you can't get in. So the benefit it gives to any landowner, a private landowner or a business or whomever, is that you can get to your property without the road being flooded.
I guess my other question here, and I'm looking at this special assessment here. Say, for example, and I'm going to use and I see what you assessed to raise $1,000 or $1,000. So obviously it's going to be more than that, I would think, right? I mean, is that
It is probably going to be more than that. That would depend on what the district thinks it intends to do in each coming year. Because as I said, this is the means of raising their budget. So whatever they budget is what we would raise. In past years, it has been more than that. So for example, in the letter that we sent out to all the homeowner or property owners, home and business owners, we proposed a hypothetical budget of $40,000 instead of $1,000, just to give them a sense of what that would look like. So again, in the sample letter, it shows it's 40 times the amount there.
And Eric, the board that would determine their budget, I'm looking, is it Pat Souter, Paul Erickson, and Paul Donahue, who are the ones that are in charge of that district?
I believe that's the right name, list of names, right? Yes, it is. And those folks are elected, actually. So if the people in the district think that the district is budgeting wrong and it should budget less or budget more, they are going to be voting for those people.
And they can talk to those people.
Right, absolutely.
I don't have any more questions.
All right. We'll now open the question and answer period during which the public can ask questions. This is different from public testimony, which comes later. Now is the time to ask staff questions. Does anyone have any questions you'd like to ask? Come, if you would, sir, come to the lectern, please. And come to the lectern and give us your name and where you live.
My name's John Grady. I live at 2395 Jackson Highway, right before the Ryland Road, which goes down into the industrial park. I guess, yeah. I'm kind of confused on who he was that said this stuff about this, was my concern. And was wondering, we live right before, I guess, the district. And was wondering how far that was going to reach for, you know, when they go to start assessing, well, not the 1,000, because that was a big eye catcher. So I was wondering who he was that determined all this for those people down below.
Okay. Well, first of all, can you call up the map again, please? So are you, I think you mentioned where you were.
Yeah, we're right before the Ryland Road. This map is not found online, really. I cannot find it at the website. And then, you know, been a lot of, that's been used, I don't know what, you know, with all the digital age, what's going on.
Okay,
But I couldn't find this. We're up above all this.
okay.
This is where it floods over the road. And that's into the industrial park, not into the port area of the district, right?
All right. So just because, so since this is being recorded, I'm going to go ahead and paraphrase what you said into the mic since you were walking over to the map.
Oh,
So
okay.
what you were saying is that you're located up above that blue area. You weren't able to see this map online, but you're able to see it now. You're located up above that blue area.
Right.
So to your first question as to who this affects and who it doesn't affect, it only affects the people inside that blue shaded district.
So far, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And and the district's boundaries are set. I mean, if they want to change those boundaries, then they have to go through this very long process that involves, among other things, a vote of the people, I believe. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, so
Not the people involved, but just a vote of everybody.
I think if they want to annex a portion of the district to get up towards you, I
Well,
believe.
we don't want them to do that.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is you have a safeguard in that I believe they would need your vote. They would need a vote of the people in that area to be added to pass it. I'm not positive, but I think so. So it looks like it doesn't affect you yet, or it doesn't affect you at all. And I think that they would need, you know, a majority of people in your area to vote to have it go up there. So you're safe from any exposure to this particular assessment. In terms of, let's see, what other questions did you have? Maybe it might be useful to show how one gets to this map so that you can look at it and anybody in the public that's concerned could see it too.
Yeah, because, I looked a long time online and, I don't know, it was pretty convoluted.
Mhm.
I could never find it, you know, you type in Lewis County Flood Control District 1
Right,
and you get a bunch of crap, you know, from years ago.
Flood, flood, flood. You probably get a lot.
Right.
Yes. I
But-
imagine. You probably get a lot of responses with the word
Yeah, but
flood
I
in
don't
there.
get, to the map, and I would thought the map would be, you know, pretty readily available in this digital age.
If Mr. Grady would like to see me after the meeting, I can give you the steps to get to this.
Well, I'm not involved, you know, so I don't really care yet. I mean, it's just a matter of, you know, once you start moving in, because this must be, I was thinking this was part of the old commission, the old industrial park. Is that correct? I mean, not per se the port, you know, the new port district that keeps swallowing up more land. And that-
so, yes, so this flood control district is not the same as either the Industrial Commission or the port, but it was, I think, formed related to the Industrial Commission, and it has these sort of narrow boundaries. It doesn't have the same boundaries as the port. It's much
Right.
smaller.
Yeah, because I know it floods down the Ryland Road.
But Kennecott Hill tends to be a tributary for the Dilly Twig too. Up on top of the hill, there's a creek that runs from there all the way down and then down through the apartment buildings and stuff.
Right.
So I don't know, it's, a contributing factor. All right, yeah, I'll check you out on that then and try to find this map.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming.
Anyone else? If you'll come to the lectern and tell us who you are and where you live.
My name's Leslie Lothar, Lavender Lothar. I'm a partial owner of 2598 Jackson Highway. My mother owned the property. It is willed to my brother and I. And I didn't quite catch why we have paid taxes in the last 16 years out of the last 19 years on flood control. I didn't quite understand why we have already done that.
Okay. Well, technically, these are not taxes, just to make sure that the record is clear, but it's very easy to mistake them for that because they do come out in your tax bill. So I understand what you mean. But your question is, why have you had special assessments from this district? Well,
And then now we're up to this point.
right. So, I mean, Flood Control District 1 was formed some time ago, and they have raised special assessments using the ways that other flood control districts have raised special assessments. Probably because no one pointed out to them that they were supposed to do it this way, where the county adopts the system and then they send in the budget and then we fill it for them. They have instead several times proposed their own system of special assessments in the way that many other districts do, which, based on my reading of what was supposed to happen, was not the way it was supposed to be done. The good news, however, is that when they have done that, they've done it in the manner that other flood control districts have, which means their special assessments were specifically keyed into benefits to parcels inside that blue zone. So they were doing, in fact, flood work, and that was providing some benefits to parcels in the zone, and that's what they were assessing for. So there was still that sort of safeguard that they were doing stuff that was specifically related to their work and not some sort of general tax where they take your money and then they can use it for whatever they want. That's a government purpose. Instead, it was specifically related to flood control in the district.
Well, and you also said something about cleaning ditches. How come they haven't done them in the last 20 years?
I don't think that's
I live
correct.
on Jackson Highway's ditches has not been cleared in 20 years. Why? Don't you think that would help some of the flood waters if they would have been cleared by now?
Well, I don't actually know which ditch you're referring to. I do know that they have cleared ditches. They have specific ditches that they clear.
Well, in front of our property, it hasn't. All the way down the strip there has not been cleared in 20 years.
So my suggestion is, just to remind you, I work for the county and not for the flood control district, because the way the state law works on this is that you have two different government agencies involved, right? Agency 1, the county, come up with a rule book for how assessments are to be raised. Agency 2, flood control district, pass your budget and do the flood work. So my suggestion is you should contact the flood control district and, apologies, Mr. Rouse, but their representatives are here, and you should talk about the ditches you're interested in, because as I said, they do provide services to people who think they need flood reduction in that area. And so at least that way you can get your information and see if it's one of the ditches they service and see about whether they would be able to find funding to do that service.
Okay. And there also, in the port's book, they state that no building would be built any closer than 20 foot on the line. Well, we have a building on our line that is on the line. Now, because of the way they put their building, they've taken out our ditch on the one side of our property. Well, now water will no longer flow because they have not cleared that ditch out, and it has a land in it with trees in between the ditches, between our old ditch and the way they put their city ditch in. Now there's an island there that is stopping water from flow. And now that needs to be clear, and that goes along with the ditch clearing. And then my next question is, if we do this fixing of our property like you guys want, will our property be valued as the port's property, because right now they've got property for sale of 14.7 acres for sale for $2 million. That puts it at 125,000 per acre. Now, if we all fix our property, does that mean our land will be as valued as the port's valued?
That seemed like more of a rhetorical question, but I do think it's worth pointing out that the flood reduction services that we're talking about are of real value to the land, and that's why the land there is valuable.
I do have a question. As far as the specific ditch that she's talking about, would we have any record of any cleaning that been done to that, Eric? We would? Okay. So we could have Eric Martin come up. He's our county manager. He might can address that one specific question you had, so.
Yeah, so depending on where you're at, those ditches may be maintained by the flood control district, and they may be maintained by the city, they may be maintained by the county. And so out on Jackson Highway, it's probably maintained by the county. So if you want to talk to me afterwards, I can get your address, I can get you in touch with our maintenance folks and make sure that, they're looking at that, making sure the water's flowing properly and that, the ditches are doing what they're supposed to do. So happy to have that conversation with you afterwards, find out what jurisdiction you're in and see if we can get you some help, so.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
So I'd just like to make sure we're all clear on this. The reason that we're having this hearing is not because they have not been collecting those special assessments in the past. We're doing it, last year they did not collect it, but this year we're doing it because of policy. We need to do it correctly. Is that why we're doing this, why we're having this hearing in the first place? Is that correct?
Yes.
I want
So
to make sure.
state law requires that
Yeah.
if a district of this type exists in the county,
Okay.
the county is supposed to do its part to provide the rule book for how they raise their budget, whether they raise the budget or not.
Yeah.
And what the budget is up to them. What we're supposed to do our part, which is provide for this system so that if they pass a budget, it can be raised according to law. So that's what we're doing.
So we're the ones trying to do it correctly.
Trying to fix it.
Thank you, Eric.
Do we have anyone else that would like to ask a question?
Jane Slinmine, 2610 Jackson Highway. In 1999, we had to pay 7 years to save the Dillenbaugh on our taxes. And I've got pictures to show you how it helped us. If somebody'd like to see them.
Yeah, if you'll let Candy have those, yes.
This is what happened to us, and my husband grew up there. And this is what happened after we paid taxes to save the Dillenbaugh.
Are you right on Jackson Highway?
Yes,
And this is right behind your property, isn't it?
well, it floods the side.
Okay,
yeah.
what I'm saying is that I think you and I
We've been
had a
in- yeah.
conversation previously, and I had directed this to Public Works to speak with you.
Nobody ever spoke to us.
Because you had told me that during the rainy season, this is usually what happens, is
Yeah.
this water comes up in this area. What I'd like to ask you to do, and our public work director is not here. I see Eric back there. Oh, Jack, you can do this.
Jack's here.
Will you give these photographs to him and show him exactly what it is we're talking about? Because I hope Public Works, did you guys try to contact them at all?
Yes, he
Okay.
gave us somebody to talk to.
Okay, so we did
I remember.
contact.
But he was gonna tell his boss, and the boss, but nobody called us back.
Okay, Jack, I'm going to give these to you. And if you would follow up with this nice lady and see what we can do for them, I would really appreciate it, okay?
So I don't know how it's gonna help us with the new flood district when we paid all this money out
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
Dillenbaugh, and that's what happened to us.
Jack will follow up with you and we'll see where we can go from here, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure the commissioners of the district would like to talk with her too.
Anyone else with any questions? Okay. I want to thank everyone for coming and asking these questions. That's what this part of the hearing is all about. And I hope that we will be able to answer your questions accordingly. So we'll now close the question and answer period. Mr. Eisenberg, would you like your opening statements incorporated into the hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We will now open the hearing for public testimony. And no one has signed up for public testimony, so we will close the hearing for public testimony.
Okay. I make a motion to approve ordinance 1309, which adopts a system of special assessment applicable to parcels within Lewis County Flood Control District 1, located in the southern Chehalis and surrounding areas.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 1309, which adopts a system of special assessment applicable to parcels within Lewis County Flood Control District 1, located in southern Chehalis and surrounding areas. Is there any further discussion?
I just wanted to say that I'm glad we've clarified a lot of the questions. I received a call from one of my constituents in Centralia, thought that they were going to be assessed $1,000. And I said, how's this going to affect me? So I'm glad we really clarified it. Is this flood control zone district #1 only? And it's not $1,000 per parcel. And there's more to this story. And we've got folks who are working on that flood control zone district that are right here that people can talk to later. Thank you.
All right, with no further comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
It is passed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Announcements, commissioners.
Well, this is Thanksgiving week, and it's, the courthouse will be open for 3 days this week. And hopefully all of you will find good Thanksgiving dinner, and I think there's some free dinners that are available. I'm looking at my neighbor who works at the Salvation Army, leads the Salvation Army, and I know there's places around that folks who do not have a place to go, that there are places that Lewis County has for folks.
I too echo those thoughts. I hope that everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving. And one thing about Lewis County, we take care of our own, and we're a very giving county. And I know that some of the people that are less fortunate, there will be places to go and enjoy a meal and fellowship and all the things that go along with it. So hope everyone has a wonderful couple days.
All right, anything from the press? No? Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Seeing no further business on our agenda, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
And before I call for the vote, I want to also wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving holiday and hope that everyone will have all the blessings that God allows for your family during this holiday season. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.